In the murky depths of a quiet, suburban night, beneath the eerie glow of streetlights, flickering like whispers of forgotten tales, an unsettling chill crept through the air, curling around the leaves like a serpent. The scene was deceptively tranquil, an enclave of manicured lawns and pristine facades, concealing the turmoil simmering beneath. Shadows loomed large, casting long, menacing silhouettes that seemed to dance with foreboding. Yet, amidst this seemingly serene backdrop, a sinister tale was unfolding, one that would weave together the lives of seemingly ordinary people into a web of deceit, vengeance, and betrayal. The air was taut with tension, as if the universe itself held its breath, awaiting the unraveling of a story that began with 4 gunshots splitting the night, a violent symphony announcing an end and a beginning. In this fractured silence, a single scream pierced through, not from an innocent bystander, but from a confused child, his world shattered, unknowingly thrust into the heart of a dark, twisted narrative. As the echoes of those shots lingered, questions hung in the air, each one a thread leading deep into the labyrinthine corridors of human ambition and desperation. What compels someone to orchestrate such an act? Was it a mother fighting a bitter battle, a lover scorned, or a meticulously plotted revenge cloaked in the guise of justice? The answers lay buried in the tangled motivations of those involved. Each secret, each lie, a stepping stone on the path to an unthinkable truth. As the story unfolds, one is left to wonder, what darkness lingers in the hearts of those we think we know? The night was eerily still as Jared Britton drove down the dimly lit stretch of road, the hum of the engine the only sound cutting through the quiet darkness. The headlights of his SUV pierced the gloom, casting fleeting shadows across the trees that stood sentinel along the roadside. The air was thick with the foreboding chill of an approaching storm, the kind that sends shivers down the spine not from cold but from an unnamed dread. Yet, Jared, lost in thoughts of mundane concerns, paid no heed to the atmosphere's sinister undertone. Inside the vehicle, his 2-year-old daughter, Beaksley, was secured in her car's seat, her innocent mind blissfully unaware of the undercurrents of tension that had been brewing in the adult world around her. Jared's thoughts drifted back to the brief but inconsequential conversation he'd had with his ex-wife, Shawnana, earlier that day. The exchange had been civil, almost cordial, as he collected his twins, Liam and Abby, after their midweek visit. Yet, beneath the surface, old resentments lay simmering, a silent testament to the years of acrimonious legal battles and personal grievances. As the SUV rounded a bend, the blinding glare of streetlights momentarily reflected off something incongruous in the road ahead, a tire, lying haphazardly across the lane. The sight was jarring in its unexpectedness, a harbinger of the chaos to come. Jared's instincts took over, his foot easing off the accelerator as he maneuvered the vehicle to a stop just shy of the obstruction. The road was deserted, its solitude offering no witnesses to the unfolding drama. Stepping out of the car, Jared moved with the steady assurance of someone accustomed to solving problems, no matter how trivial. The cool night air brushed against his skin, bringing with it the scent of pine and the distant, earthy tang of rain. He bent down to inspect the tire, unaware that he had just crossed an invisible threshold, stepping into a carefully laid trap from which there would be no return. Suddenly, the night erupted in a cacophony of violence. The first gunshot was a crack of thunder, reverberating through the stillness with a malevolent echo. It was followed in quick succession by 3 more, each shot a punctuation mark of finality. Jared's body jerked. The momentum of life abruptly halted as he crumpled to the ground, the dark stain of his blood seeping into the earth beneath him. Inside the SUV, Beaksley was startled into wakefulness by the gunfire. Her eyes, wide and uncomprehending, surveyed the dim interior of the car, instinctively seeking the familiar comfort of her father's presence. But the world had gone terribly quiet, the silence oppressive and smothering in its totality. Minutes passed, time stretching endlessly in the aftermath of the violence. The only movement came from the gentle sway of leaves rustling in the night breeze, as if the world continued unabated, indifferent to the tragedy that had just unfolded in its midst. And then, piercing the silence like a beacon of despair, came the cry, a single heart-wrenching scream. It was a sound born of confusion and fear, a child's plea for the return of normalcy in a night irrevocably altered. Back at the scene, the darkness began to close in around the fallen figure of Jared Britton, his life ebbing away beneath the indifferent gaze of the stars. The road, once a simple path homeward, had become a grim tableau, a testament to the depths of human ambition and the shadowy web of betrayal that ensnared him. As the night deepened, questions hung heavy in the air, each one a whisper of the secrets buried beneath the surface. Who had orchestrated this act of violence, and why? Was it a crime born of passion, a culmination of the bitter custody battles and financial disputes that had plagued Jared and Shanana's lives for years? Or was it something darker, a premeditated act of revenge, meticulously planned and coldly executed? As the investigation unfolded, the answers would lead detectives down paths littered with deception and manipulation, each revelation a new thread in the tangled web surrounding Jared's untimely death. But for now, the world was reduced to silence and shadows, a stage cleared of players, awaiting the next act in a tragedy that felt both inevitable and unfathomable. The evening sun was setting over Jacksonville, casting long shadows that danced across the suburban lawns in a ghostly ballet. The air was thick with the humid embrace of the southern night, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy that had gripped the community with an iron fist of fear and speculation. The whispers of cicadas filled the void left by the absence of human chatter, as if they alone knew the secrets enfolding within the Gardner-Britton saga and sang it to the winds in their own cryptic language. Jared Britton's life had been a mosaic of contradictions: a loving father, a rising star at Microsoft, a man caught in the throes of a contentious divorce that had left his life entangled with legal skirmishes and emotional turmoil. His death, so untimely, had shattered the fragile peace of the neighborhood, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and a gaping void in the lives of those who loved him. As the investigation progressed, the detectives found themselves immersed in a labyrinthine web of deceit, trying to untangle the knotted strands of truth from the fabric of lies spun by those closest to Jared. The case was complex, layered with years of resentment and the acrid scent of betrayal. Every new piece of evidence was like a fragment of a shattered mirror, reflecting the dark undercurrents that ran beneath the pristine surface of the Gardner's affluence. The couple, Jared and Shanana, had once been the epitome of suburban bliss. Their love story had begun with the rosy glow of young romance, culminating in a lavish wedding and the birth of their twins, Liam and Abby. Yet, as with many tales of domestic idol, beneath the veneer of happiness lay simmering discontent. Accusations of infidelity and financial misconduct had marred their union, turning affection to acrimony, love to litigation. The divorce had left scars on both sides, evident in the bitterness that lingered like a shadow over their interactions. Shanana Gardner, with her striking features and poised demeanor, had quickly become the center of a media maelstrom following Jared's death. Public opinion was divided. Was she a grieving ex-wife, caught in the maelstrom of circumstance, or was she the architect of a sinister plot, orchestrating a tragedy to rid herself of a cumbersome past? Her interviews were a study in ambiguity, her emotions tightly controlled. Yet her eyes, those windows to the soul, betrayed glimpses of a deeper internal struggle, a battle between remorse and resignation. As detectives delved into Shanana's world, they uncovered a tapestry of interactions that hinted at motives far beyond the superficial. Her new husband, Mario Fernandez, a man of modest beginnings but ambitious aspirations, was drawn into the vortex of suspicion. His relationship with Jared had been fraught with tension, exacerbated by the ongoing custody battles and the financial entanglements that had ensued. The detectives pieced together a narrative of collusion and conspiracy that cast a long shadow over both Mario and Shanana. The discovery of Henry Tennant's involvement was a turning point. A man from the fringes of the narrative, his life intersected with the Gardinas in a manner that seemed almost serendipitous. His arrest unraveled the tightly wound threads of secrecy as one revelation cascaded into another, illuminating a path that led inexorably back to Mario and Shanana. The tire, innocuous in its presence, became the linchpin that connected the disparate elements of the case, a silent witness to the machinations that had unfolded on that fateful night. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was charged with tension, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. As the prosecutor laid out the case, the gallery watched with bated breath, eyes flickering between the defendants and the evidence presented. Each word was a hammer blow, resonating with the finality of justice being served, yet the outcome remained uncertain, a delicate balance between the defense's narrative and the prosecution's relentless pursuit of truth. As the trial progressed, the spotlight turned inexorably to Shanana, her every move scrutinized, her every word dissected. The courtroom became a theater of human emotion, a stage where the drama of betrayal, ambition, and vengeance played out in stark relief, leaving in its wake a tapestry of broken lives and shattered dreams. Among the audience, the whispers of speculation mingled with the reality of the tragedy, a haunting reminder that beneath the surface of everyday life, the darkness of human ambition lurked, waiting to unravel the fabric of normalcy. The air in the courtroom, once vibrant with the murmurs of anticipation and the rustle of papers, now hung heavy and still, like the oppressive calm before a storm. The prosecutor's voice echoed through the chamber, each syllable striking like the tolling of a bell, pronouncing the weight of allegations that loomed over this tragic tableau. The audience, a mix of local townsfolk and media personnel, sat on the edge of their seats, eyes darting from the formidable prosecutor to Shanana Gardner, perched at the defense table. Shanana, with her poised demeanor, was a study in controlled emotion. Every flick of her gaze and every shift in her posture was met with scrutiny, as if the truth lay hidden in the subtleties of her expression. But her face remained impassive, a mask that betrayed nothing of the turmoil that surely churned beneath. As her eyes scanned the room, they momentarily caught the eyes of Jared's widow, Karen, sitting rigid yet resolute, her face a canvas of grief framed by the harsh fluorescent lights. One could almost hear the unsaid words. Why? How did it come to this? The narrative unfolded, layer by haunting layer, as the prosecution introduced a series of damning evidences and chilling recollections. The image of Jared, once a spirited executive with a future as promising as the dawn, was painted vividly in the minds of the courtroom inhabitants, now reduced to remnants of memories and the chilling outline of a crime scene photo. The children, their laughter once echoing through the hallways of their family home, had been left with echoes of gunfire and the haunting silence that followed. The prosecution's voice rose as they laid out the systematic unraveling of Jared's life. A video played, displaying the shaky footage captured by Karen's phone, a shadowy figure skirting the edges of her property like a phantom, a harbinger of the chaos that had upended her world. The anxiety in the room was tangible, like a low hum, as people shifted uneasily in their seats. Outside the frame of the courtroom, the tranquil suburban streets of Jacksonville Beach seemed an insidious contrast, a deceptive facade of palm trees and manicured lawns, hiding the dark undercurrents of ambition and betrayal. It was on these streets, somewhere between Jacksonville Drive and Sanctuary Boulevard, that a wheel had mysteriously dislodged, setting in motion the final act of a deadly play. As the narrative wove its way through the sequence of events, the tension escalated. Jared's last moments were recounted with clinical precision. The sudden halt of his car, the unsettling silence shattered by gunfire, and the unyielding asphalt that became his resting place. The prosecutor described how the night air, once filled with the innocent chatter of father and his children, had been tainted with the acrid smell of gunpowder and the metallic tang of spilled life. The defense, too, had their moment, painting Sha-Nana as a woman caught in an impossible web, a mother fighting for her children, trapped between her past and present, with no clear path forward. They highlighted the bitter custody battle, the tangled financial dependencies, and the emotional turmoil of a life under a microscope. Yet, as her defense lawyer spoke, the fissures in the bitter narrative only seemed to widen, revealing more cracks than they concealed. Yet, in the back of the courtroom, a quiet conversation among strangers unfolded, sharing whispered theories and anecdotes, weaving their own tapestry of suspicion and disbelief. For in this theater of justice, every spectator became a participant in the unfolding drama, a jury of the unofficially sworn. With a final flourish, the prosecution presented the surveillance footage, the grainy yet unmistakable image of the blue F-150 pickup truck, a specter lurking in the shadows, captured in the act of what could only be a sinister purpose. The air was electric, charged with the mutual understanding of the enormity of the evidence against Sha-Nana and her alleged accomplices. As the court recessed for the day, the clamor of whispered speculations and the shuffling of feet filled the void left by the silence of the proceedings. Outside, reporters jostled for position, their cameras capturing the faces of those exiting. Faces etched with a day's worth of tension and anticipation, leaving behind a courtroom that stood as a testament to the tangled web of human deceit and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the quietude of the moonlit night, when the world outside had settled into a deceptive calm, a different sort of tempest brewed beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The courtroom, now emptied of its cacophony of voices and the restless shuffling of feet, stood desolate and hushed, a silent witness to the unfolding narrative of one tumultuous and tragic saga. It was as though the very walls of this chamber of justice absorbed the secrets and confessions, the tears and denials, echoing them back to the shadows lurking just beyond the reach of light. The air was thick, almost tangible, with the weight of unsaid words and unresolved truths. A heavy shroud of tension hung in the atmosphere, as if waiting for the next act in this tragic play to unfold. Outside, the evening wore its cloak of darkness, a canvas embroidered with the distant glimmer of stars, each a tiny beacon against the vast, unknowable expanse of sky. The streetlights cast elongated shadows that danced and wavered along the sidewalks, creating an intricate ballet of light and darkness, truth and deception. In the wake of the courtroom's recess, those who had borne witness to the day's proceedings meandered through the night, their minds a whirlpool of questions and conjectures. Among them was Karen, her eyes reflecting the strain of sleepless nights and the relentless pursuit of answers that seemed to elude her grasp. Every whisper of wind through the trees seemed to carry with it Jared's voice, a haunting reminder of the life that had been so cruelly snatched away. Karen's heart was a tumultuous ocean, each wave crashing against the shores of her resolve, eroding it bit by bit. The specter of uncertainty loomed large, filling every crevice of her existence, gnawing at the edges of her reality. How does one reconcile the familiar with the incomprehensible, the known with the unknowable? In the recesses of her mind, she replayed the phone call from that fateful evening, the last vestiges of normalcy before the world tilted on its axis and spiraled into chaos. Beaksley's innocent laughter, captured in fleeting moments of memory, echoed in the corridors of Karen's thoughts. It was a sound that once brought solace and joy, but now resonated with a poignant melancholy, a reminder of all that had been lost. The image of Jared, vibrant and full of life, juxtaposed against the harsh, unforgiving reality of his absence, was a dichotomy too cruel to bear. As Karen's footsteps echoed along the pavement, a soft rustling among the leaves drew her gaze. The shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own, a living tapestry woven from the threads of mystery and the unknown. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes boring into her soul, unraveling her defenses with an insidious intent. The feeling clung to her like a second skin, a constant reminder of the unseen dangers that lurked just beyond the periphery of her awareness. The blue F-150, a phantom in its own right, loomed large in the narrative, a vessel of tragedy and betrayal. It had slipped through the night like a ghost, leaving only the faintest trace of its presence, a specter that haunted the investigation with its silent accusation. Each revelation about its journey, every breadcrumb of evidence, painted a picture that was as chilling as it was incomplete. In the quiet moments, when the clamor of the world receded into silence, Karen found herself grappling with the labyrinthine complexities of human nature. The veneer of civility and normalcy often masks the darkest of intentions, the most sinister of plots. Her thoughts turned to Nana, the enigmatic figure at the heart of this storm. Karen wondered what darkness lay beneath the surface of her composed exterior, what demons danced in the shadows of her mind. The night deepened, stretching its inky tendrils across the landscape, a reminder that the truth often resides in the darkest corners of existence. As Karen made her way home, her heart heavy with the burden of unresolved grief, she couldn't help but feel that this journey, fraught with danger and deception, was far from over. The road ahead was obscured by a veil of uncertainty, a path shadowed by questions that demanded answers. Yet, amidst the shadows, a flicker of hope endured. It was the hope that justice, though elusive, would eventually prevail, illuminating the darkness and bringing with it the light of truth and closure. The air was thick with an unsettling calm, a silence that seemed to stretch endlessly, echoing the eerie events that had transpired. The children, innocent and blissfully unaware of the sinister machinations that had enveloped their lives, were now thrust into a maelstrom of deceit and malevolence. As the dust began to settle, the chilling implications of what had occurred began to crystallize, a narrative of familial betrayal and heart-wrenching loss. The murder of Jared Bryan was not merely the tragic ending of a life. It was the culmination of a deeply toxic relationship that had festered for years, hidden beneath a veneer of civility and court-ordered co-parenting. It was a testament to the destructive power of resentment and the lengths to which some might go to sever the ties that bind, regardless of the collateral damage. Jared Bryan, a devoted father and a successful executive, had become the unsuspecting target of a plot that was as complex as it was heinous. It was a carefully orchestrated assault on not just his life, but on the very fabric of the family he had strived to build post-divorce. His death was a calculated act of violence, a bullet-pierced message delivered in the most brutal way imaginable, leaving behind a trail of shattered dreams and unanswered questions. In the aftermath, Karen Bryan found herself in a precarious position, the weight of her husband's death compounded by the eerie presence of an unidentified figure lurking around her property. It was a grim reminder that the danger was far from over, that the specter of Jared's murder still loomed large, casting long shadows across her life and the lives of her children. The sense of vulnerability was palpable, a constant, gnawing anxiety that seeped into the corners of her home, stripping it of its sanctuary status. The involvement of Nana Gardner in this sordid affair, whether direct or indirect, presents a moral quandary that demands scrutiny. Her demeanor in the wake of Jared's death, detached, almost impervious to the gravity of the situation, served only to stoke the fires of suspicion. Her actions, or lack thereof, painted the picture of a woman either deeply engrossed in her own narrative of victimhood or chillingly complicit in the orchestration of a heinous crime. The carefully curated facade of the grieving ex-wife began to crack, revealing glimpses of a darker, more calculating persona, one that was not above manipulating events to suit a twisted endgame. The decision to uproot the twins and move them across the country, away from the prying eyes and wagging tongues of a community engrossed in scandal, further fueled speculation. It was a move that, on the surface, could be seen as an attempt to shield her children from the chaos, but one that also reeked of an attempt to distance herself from the epicenter of the investigation. The moral implications of this act are staggering. It poses challenging questions about the nature of justice and the lengths people will go to preserve their version of the truth. It reflects a deeply unsettling reality that in the pursuit of vengeance, the lines between right and wrong, love and hatred, become irreparably blurred, leaving in their wake a trail of despair and devastation. The arrest of Mario Fernandez and the subsequent confession from Henry Tenon peeled back yet another layer of this complex web of deceit. Mario's casual demeanor during his arrest was disturbing, a stark contrast to the gravity of the charges against him. This calmness could be seen as either an acceptance of his fate or a chilling indifference to the life that had been taken. His behavior, coupled with the damning evidence against him, painted a portrait of a man deeply entangled in a plot that had spiraled out of control. As the legal proceedings continue, the quest for justice remains fraught with uncertainty. The looming presence of Jose Baez, Shanana's formidable defense attorney, casts a long shadow over the prosecution's case. The potential for a courtroom drama of epic proportions hangs in the balance, a high-stakes game where the truth is the ultimate prize. In this intricate ballet of betrayal and retribution, innocent lives hang in the balance, caught in the crossfire of a bitter and protracted battle. The story of Jared Bryan's murder is not just a tale of one man's untimely demise. It is a reflection of the darkest recesses of the human heart, a sobering reminder that beneath the veneer of domestic tranquility, chaos and malice often lie in wait, ready to strike with devastating impact. The courtroom was a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded on the streets of Jacksonville. The cold, sterile environment seemed to absorb the whispers of anticipation, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and anxiety. As the judge entered, a hush fell over the room, the anticipation palpable, like an electric charge dancing across a taut wire. The gallery was packed, a sea of faces each etched with a mixture of curiosity and dread, all eyes riveted on the defendant's table where Shawnana Gardner sat. Her expression was inscrutable, a mask of calm that seemed almost unnerving in its serenity. Yet beneath this facade, one could sense the undercurrents of tension, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. The prosecution laid out their case with meticulous precision, each piece of evidence a brick in the intricate edifice of their argument. They painted a vivid picture of betrayal and greed, a narrative woven with threads of jealousy and vengeance, each strand tightening around Shawnana like an invisible noose. The jury sat in rapt attention, their faces inscrutable as they absorbed the harrowing details of Jared Bryan's tragic demise. The defense, led by the formidable Jose Baez, countered with equal fervor, their argument a masterclass in rhetoric and persuasion, each word crafted to sow doubt and uncertainty. Outside, the world continued to spin, oblivious to the human drama unfolding within the confines of the courtroom. But inside, time seemed to stand still, each second stretching into eternity as the fate of those involved hung in the balance. The tension was palpable, a living, breathing entity that infused the room with an almost suffocating intensity. As the final arguments were made, the courtroom became a crucible of truth and lies, where the ultimate verdict would be forged. And as the jury filed out to deliberate, the silence that enveloped the room was profound, a tangible reminder of the gravity of the moment. In that silence, the specter of Jared Bryan loomed large, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the destructive power of human ambition. The echoes of his story reverberated through the courtroom, a chilling testament to the dark recesses of the human heart. And as the world awaited the jury's decision, one could not help but wonder at the complex tapestry of motives and emotions that had led to this tragic end. In that moment, the courtroom was not just a place of judgment, but a mirror reflecting the deepest shadows of the human soul.